V Rising is a vampire survival action RPG game where you awaken as a vampire after centuries of slumber. You hunt for blood to regain your strength and rebuild your castle until you rule the night. I'll first talk about the sound design. The ambience is normal and relaxing if you like bird sounds, but there's sadly no weather system, which means no rain, and that is my favorite sound effect of all time, so that makes me quite sad. Combat, voice lines, and blood related sound effects are obviously not relaxing. I would say the blood related sound effects are a bit unsettling sometimes, but that is what you would expect from this type of game, so that's okay. Attacking trees and rocks doesn't have relaxing sounds, but it is satisfying to do, so I do like it. Overall, the game has a lot of sounds that you would expect from an RPG or maybe even MMO resemblances, so I didn't expect much going in. The sound design is definitely not suitable for ASMR, but it's also not a problem. There aren't really any loud and startling sounds, mostly, which some cozy games actually do have, and this game doesn't really. So it is possible to make ASMR with it, it's just not quite suitable. But the sound design fits the game, and I'm fine with it. So I rate the sound design at 2 out of 5, mainly because it doesn't have any of those loud, startling sounds, and the the sound design does contribute to a nice atmosphere and ambience. As for how calming the game is, my first thought is that the field of view is incredibly low height-wise, which is really frustrating to me. It was hard to get used to, and still sometimes when I'm playing, it's a real frustration not being able to see very far. The game also can't be paused, which I know is a deal breaker for some people. I haven't found that it bothers me too much, but how much it would bother you is just very subjective and depends on what kind of person you are. You can sleep in your coffin, but it won't speed up time. It'll protect you from the sun, for example, but that's it. So that's your only way of pausing. And this can obviously be stressful to some people, which I totally understand. It's a bit annoying for me, but not a deal breaker. From some sounds to voice lines to character appearances and movement, I get a few World of Warcraft vibes, which I find nostalgic and calming. The UI also reminds me of a more modern and clean MMO UI, which I like very much. And the atmosphere of the game is just very calming. The forest is pretty and feels alive. I'm not a fan of bird sounds, but the various sounds of the forest makes for a more immersive experience. Just running around and doing my thing was calming because of the atmosphere rather than the graphics or sounds. But again, there's no weather system, which is a very big shame. I think that could have been an excellent feature and would make the game so much more immersive and cozy. I would just really love it. So I rate the calming aspect a 3 out of 5. The aspect in gameplay is calming, but it lacks in weather and it has some qualities that frustrate me, which I will talk about now. Tools and weapons have durability. I will always hate this. I don't like being punished for using my tools or weapons. It's a major frustration for me. How you feel about it is very different from person to person, but it really does frustrate me quite a bit. Your castle has a heart that must be fed from blood essence, which you gather by killing other creatures. The more blood essence, the more time your castle's heart will be turned on for. The purpose of the heart is to power and fortify the castle. I'm sure it's not the end of the world if you run out of blood essence for it, but it's clear the game is meant to be a grind, and you can't just stop to relax. You can sleep in your coffin and just wait. It doesn't even speed up time. You can just sit there and wait. But maybe if you're really far ahead and you're safe and set for a while, the game is more relaxing. But this means there's always something to do, and having the risks of durability and needing blood to sustain yourself and maintaining the castle's heart can be an enjoyable task for some people. Something I really dislike is losing my loot when I die. I venture out into the world to do something, I die, and just have to hope I can respawn somewhere not that far from where I died. You also can't teleport with certain items, which prevents me from teleporting home a lot. During daylight, you get burned by the sun and can lose health if you stay in it for too long. So if you make this trip during daylight, it gets a bit more difficult as you have to try and be in the shadows constantly. Some people don't mind this, but I'm impatient as heck, so this is the kind of thing that would make me close the game out of frustration. I just don't like having to run back to where I died. It feels like kind of a waste of time. Crafting, gathering loot, and killing creatures is all pretty easy and simple and prevents me from getting overwhelmed. You can also choose your difficulty level, which is really nice. The fact that you can't teleport with some items is very silly to me. And it's not just ultra unique items either. Some common and normal items prevent teleportation too, meaning I have a hard time going on a loot run without accidentally getting loot I can't teleport with, so then I have to run all the way back to my castle. I'm not sure about the grind for making a nice looking castle. I've never liked building or the grind for getting items that look nice, so that's why I prefer games like Stardew Valley or Sunhaven, where your exterior isn't manually built by you. But the building is of course a huge part of the game, and I'm sure a big appeal for some people. Decorating a building isn't as simple and straightforward like in Stardew, but will be a nice passion and focus for people that like building and decorating every possible inch. The potential creativity with the castle is insane. I recommend looking up videos of people's creations because it's super cool. I could imagine Minecraft fans might enjoy how the building works. I just don't, and it kind of forces me to have an ugly and non-appealing castle forever. But it hasn't stopped me from enjoying the game. I live in content in my ugly castle. The combat isn't very complicated, and I like it. Having different types of magic to choose from is something I love in all game, as a proud elementalist mage in Guild Wars 2. The AI is very silly though. I frequently catch the world bosses being silly and dumb, but it always makes me smile. I accidentally made one world boss start attacking another world boss and ended up killing them both. The AI isn't quite as dumb as in Pal World, for example, but it is rather dumb, and I like it. And the bosses aren't too difficult to progress through either. Obviously, if you are a level that can actually handle the bosses, then they aren't too difficult. There's some nice quality of life features that I wish other games had. Crafting is easy and gives you a lot of information, and the wood and stone you gather automatically goes into your inventory. If crafting was hard, I'd be very displeased. I'd be too overwhelmed with that combined with losing my loot and not being able to teleport a lot. But thankfully the crafting is pretty easy to understand. It's always difficult to rate a grind of a game without having spent hundreds of hours in it, but I rate the grind of 3 out of 5. Getting resources is fairly simple and easy, and the crafting system is easy to understand, but you can't speed up time to quicken your crafting, and durability and having to go back for your loot when you die is very frustrating to me. I can't even imagine how many hours it'll take to make a nice looking castle. So what you want to do with your castle also affects how big of a grind it will be for you. Overall, I've been having fun with this game. I do find it relaxing to an extent, but there are several moments where my frustration is anything but calming. I initially thought the game would be more cozier, maybe having a weather system and less of a grind, so right now I consider it a cozy-ish game. It's hard to describe. The game is kind of just vibes. The forest is very vibey, and I enjoy the feeling of being an isolated vampire. I would totally want to play this game when it's dark and raining in real life. Maybe go above and beyond and light candles and drink tea as well. Embrace your inner goth. I imagine the building isn't as satisfying as in games like Minecraft, but I have no doubt it can be a fun and passionate focus for players that enjoy building. Finishing a huge and pretty castle must feel pretty damn satisfying. Obviously, the best thing about this game is the vampire aspect. I would not have played it if not for this. It's very uniquely and creatively made. Creatively, did I say? I wasn't even the Twilight of Vampire Diaries girl growing up, so I'd love to see how much fun those people would have with the game. It does really feel like you against the world, and I like that, and I actually find that to be calming in a way. I definitely recommend the game, but since it's so expensive, you need to ask yourself if you're okay with a sort of heavy grind and no pausing first. If yes, I'm sure you'll enjoy the game. If you're looking for a more cozy version of V Rising, I suggest the upcoming game Crimson Hollow, which I will link in the description. Overall, I like the game a lot, and I think you will be able to like it too. And if you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, blah blah blah.